My name is David. I'm 28 years old. After getting divorced, I moved to a quiet town called Chatham in Alabama. Aside from my parents' place, I didn't really have anywhere else to stay, so I moved into my grandfather's old home. He had passed away a few years back and left the house to our family. It's located about 10 minutes from town and sits on 10 acres of land surrounded by forest. It's very quiet out there. I thought I'd appreciate that peace. The house is old, with wooden floors that creak and doors that are hard to open. It's the kind of place that always feels slightly cold, even with the thermostat turned up. Still, it was free and I didn't have any better options. The first few nights were uneventful. I spent time unpacking and tidying up. I sat on the porch in the evenings with a beer. It felt peaceful. There were no cars, just wind rustling through the trees and the occasional hoot from an owl. Then the sounds began. The first time I noticed it was on the 7th night. I had just gotten into bed around midnight. I was nearly asleep when I heard whistling coming from outside. It wasn't any song I recognized, just a slow, broken, and off-tune melody. It seemed like someone was walking through the woods behind the house, whistling as they moved. It creeped me out, but I assumed it was just a hunter or maybe a drunk neighbor. The next night, it happened once more. Same time, same tune. But this time, it felt closer. I got out of bed and switched on the porch light, but didn't see anyone there. I went out with a flashlight and checked the yard. There was nothing, no footprints or any noise of someone fleeing. Just the whistling fading deeper into the woods. I tried to ignore it for the next couple of nights. I stayed in bed and attempted to sleep through it, but each time the whistling would begin around 1:17 a.m. I know that sounds oddly specific, but I'm sure it was always close to 1:15 or 1:19. It became so predictable it felt like a schedule. I began to suspect that someone was playing a prank on me, possibly someone who knew I was living there alone. I eventually called the sheriff's office. A few days later, an older deputy, who I'll refer to as Officer William, came by. He'd been working that job for a long time. When I explained what was happening, he became very quiet. He said, and I quote, "Your granddaddy used to call us about this exact thing. Said someone was whistling around the property late at night during springtime. We never found anything. I figured it was just old age catching up to him. But now you're hearing it too?" That unsettled me. I had no clue my grandfather had dealt with something similar. Officer William advised me to keep all the doors locked and to avoid going outside after dark. I started following that advice, though I was already doing most of it. I checked every window to make sure it was secured. One night, I even put chairs under the doorknobs just to be safe, but the whistling kept coming back, each time sounding a little closer. One night, I heard it near the shed. It was louder than usual, like someone was just outside. I grabbed a flashlight and looked through the blinds. I didn't see anyone, but I didn't dare step outside. The next night, I heard it on the front porch, right at the door. 3 slow whistles followed by silence. Then the night after, it came from underneath the floorboards. I swear it felt like someone was in the crawl space, whistling through the vents. I didn't sleep at all that night. The following day, I searched the attic, hoping to find something my grandfather might have left behind. I discovered a box of his old journals. He wrote extensively about the whistling. According to him, it happened every spring for over 10 years. He didn't know who was doing it, but believed someone was keeping an eye on the house. He said he used to sit at the front door with a rifle just in case. It only seemed to happen after my grandmother passed, when he lived alone. I called Officer William again. He came back and looked through the journals, and I could see he was uneasy. He told me to stay cautious. He said, "Don't open the door unless you know who's there." That night I stayed awake. I sat on the couch with a shotgun across my lap. I barely knew how to load the thing. I waited. At exactly 1:17 a.m., the whistling began once more. But this time it wasn't coming from outside. It came from the hallway inside the house. I froze in place. The hallway light was off and I could hear the tune getting closer with each step. I stood up, pointed the shotgun, and yelled, "Who's there?" The whistling instantly stopped. I switched on the hallway light. Nothing was there. No person. I couldn't sleep after that. Two nights went by without a sound. I was starting to get physically ill. I had no idea who this person was or why they were targeting me or my grandfather. But I knew it was real. I don't believe in hallucinations to that level, and I don't believe in ghosts. This was an actual person. After that night, things went silent for 2 more days. No sounds, no movement, nothing. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. On the 3rd night, I went to bed shortly after midnight. I didn't stay up. I left the hallway light on just in case. At exactly 1:17 a.m., I was awakened by a new sound, not whistling, but knocking. Slow, deliberate knocks. 3 of them. They were coming from inside the house near the back door. Then it went quiet. I didn't move. I stayed in bed listening carefully. About a minute later, I heard something new. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Then another. Someone was walking. The hallway light turned off. My heart raced as I grabbed my shotgun and stepped into the hallway. It was pitch black. But at the far end, I saw a figure. A person dressed in black with a pale face. They were completely still, just staring at me. I raised the shotgun, though my hands were trembling. I tried to say something, but my mouth was dry. I lifted the shotgun again, hands still shaking. I managed to yell, "Don't move," though my voice wavered. In the darkness, I saw the figure start to raise their leg and turn like they were preparing to run. I shouted, "Stop!" And at that moment, they bolted out of the hallway, disappearing from my sight. I could hear their heavy footsteps rushing through the front door and out into the night. I ran outside and fired the shotgun, not into the air, but straight into the dark, secretly hoping I might hit them. I yelled, "Don't come back." The shot echoed loudly, bouncing off the house and porch. I locked everything up, jumped into my truck, and drove straight into town. That night, I slept in my truck. The next morning, Officer William visited the house again and told me the front door had been unlocked. That proved the person had a key to my grandfather's house. Nothing had been damaged or taken, but Officer William told me to change the locks. He also advised me unofficially to move out of that house. He believed someone in those woods didn't want either me or my grandfather living there. I drove to a local hardware store and replaced all the locks immediately. That same day, I left the house and went to my parents' home out of state for a while. My dad handled selling the house later. We removed anything sentimental, and the rest was either sold or left behind. Of course, my father didn't mention that a stalker had been hanging around that property for decades. I don't know how they got a key, who they were, or why my grandfather never warned us. It all deeply disturbs me. Personally, I think it was a troubled person living somewhere nearby. I eventually moved to a more populated area. This whole experience left me too shaken to live anywhere remote again.